Hey everyone, I'm Todd Wayne along with Ronnie Heelan. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Paranomaly Podcast. You know, coming up on this episode, we'll be talking with Kenny Biddle. Kenny Biddle is a renowned skeptic, investigator, and science enthusiast known for his relentless pursuit of uncovering the truth behind paranormal and supernatural claims. Now, with an analytical mind and a commitment to critical thinking, Kenny has dedicated himself to investigating a wide range of paranormal phenomena, including ghostly encounters, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, and more. He employs a scientific approach, carefully examining the evidence and employing rigorous methodologies to separate fact from fiction. Now, Kenny's very well known in the community, paranormal community, and he's an all-around great guy. This is going to be a very good show. So, with that being said, grab yourself a drink and a snack. Turn the lights off on the way back. Find yourself a nice comfy spot and enjoy this episode of Paranomaly. Stay with us, folks. You can hear me good, correct? And I'm just making sure to get our audio here up and everything's good.
Yep.
And all right. So how's everything tonight? Good?
Everything is good. Yep. I am rocking and rolling. Just, I love my work, so I am here all the time. This is my work office. You can see it. Not everyone else can, but, I love being here. I love working. So I'm working late tonight just because I figured I was going to be here anyway, and I might as well get some stuff done. So good. How are you?
I am doing fine, and I've been really looking forward to this because I like to have different perspectives from everybody. And
okay.
I'm sure this doesn't even really exist, but I'm like a skeptical believer. If something has enough evidence that would be a plausible thing, then I'm for it. I won't roll it all out though. So that's why I wanted you on to talk about equipment and audio, obviously photo, all these different things that people have this, I don't know. People see a piece of dust and they're like, "Oh my God, that's great grandma." You know?
Yeah. I mean, are we recording now or?
Yes.
What are we doing? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm just jumping into it then.
Sure.
It really depends on your understanding or one's understanding of what evidence is. And evidence is used, it's data in support of a claim. So if you claim someone committed a crime against you, you have to bring sufficient data, which would be, after being tested and analyzed, would be evidence that someone committed a crime against you. And this applies to paranormal investigation. You need sufficient evidence in order to prove a claim. And if you make a claim, this is a big deal. If you make a claim, the burden of proof is on you. If you say, "I have a photo of a ghost," the burden of proof is on you to supply sufficient evidence to support that claim. And unfortunately, we do not see that in this community. As you mentioned, people see a speck of dust. They capture it on a photo or a video. They don't know what it is, but they've seen enough TV shows to know, oh, that looks like what I saw on Ghost Adventures or something like that. Therefore, I have a ghost. And right. It's put out there on social media as something legitimate, and it's not.
Right. Yes. Belief is all in that too. How did you get into paranormal investigating? I've known you for quite some time through Facebook. So I've followed you for many years. And
cool.
How did you get started in the debunking of paranormal? Did you just see it all the time and be like, "Look, this is what this is, and I need to start telling people exactly what this is"?
Well, so I can tell you my origin story. I basically, in the 1990s, I was a ghost hunter. Loved it. I grew up in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And I had shows like Unsolved Mysteries, In Search of, sightings, all of these old television shows that promoted these kind of mysteries and made it mysterious. They didn't really solve it. They didn't want to solve it because then there would be no more continuation of that story. So they promoted the mystery, and I was hooked. I grew up in a Catholic household, so I already had the belief that there was an afterlife. I mean, that was drilled into me from the beginning. So I already had those kind of beliefs. Ghosts and demons and monsters and UFOs, they kind of just flowed right in with that belief. So for a while, I just enjoyed it. I delved into all the beliefs, and I did the same thing as what you see on TV shows. I thought orbs, they are the bane of my existence anymore. But I thought they were something real, and I thought ectomist was something, and these crazy zigzag lights, and all kinds of stuff. And then go to about, I don't remember the year exactly, but I would say like 1998, 99. I'm in Gettysburg, and I'm at a ghost conference. It's one of the early ones, first ones, like really on the East Coast. And we're out there, we're listening to people tell stories, and it's great. We're here listening to speakers, but the speakers weren't actually like educational speakers. They were ghost hunters telling stories.
Okay.
And at the time, like I thought that was great. Don't get me wrong. Like I love a good ghost story. I don't want to knock that.
Sure.
But they were not educating the public, as in good investigative methods. They were not talking about photography or video editing or anything like that. Nothing to benefit you in the field. So one night we decide to go out to this little area of Gettysburg, and we heard about it from the park rangers. The park rangers told us that they don't go there because it's so scary and weird stuff happens, so they avoid it. So, ghost hunters, we're like, yeah, that's our jam, man. That's where we go. So we set up camp. All right. We go out there one night. We set up. We're in this little patch of woods. And if you're familiar with Gettysburg, it was right next to the wheat field. There's a little field hospital, and there's a marker there that marks this little patch of woods as a field hospital. So we're sitting in there, and I'm looking out. I'm probably like 15, 20 feet from the edge of the woods. And I can see across the wheat field, which is an open field, and I see 3 cars come by. They start coming down the road, and they pull over. And then out comes a bunch of ghost hunters. And I know they're ghost hunters because the flashlights and the laser pointers are going all over the place. They're having fun. They're laughing. And they had at the time, again, this is like 99, they had the temperature guns with the laser pointers. So everybody, they're having fun with this. And they start walking into the field. And I'm getting a little annoyed because we're trying to do our thing, we're our ghost hunting thing. And here comes this group of people, and they're loud. They start coming towards us. And the closer they get, the more annoyed I get, because now I'm like, oh crap, they're going to find us. They're going to ask what we're doing. They're going to want to join us. And they're already loud. They're already joking around and laughing. They're disruptive. I don't want them here. So they finally get way too close. I march out of the woods. All right. So I'm in the dark woods. It's at night. I march out of the woods. I start yelling, shut up, go away, get back in your cars. This is our spot. Leave us alone. The whole group stops dead. Pun intended. They stop dead. They turn around. They run back to their cars. They get in. They drive away. That's it. I'm thinking, great. We're good. So we go about doing our ghost hunting thing at that night. The next morning, we come down from our hotel rooms. We go into the conference, and we start hearing about a group of ghost hunters that saw an apparition the night before. And so we start asking questions like, where was it? And they're like, oh, we were at the wheat field. I'm like, oh, that's great. We were there. I was there. That, what it looked like. Well, it was like 7:00 at night that we were there. And I was like, good. That's good. I was there. That's the right time. We're like, yeah, this apparition just appeared out of the woods and started yelling at us. And like the light bulb goes on. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, that was me. I'm pretty sure that was me. So I start describing their cars. I described their clothing. I described who was there, what they said, what I said. And they kept denying it. Like, no, that wasn't you. We saw an apparition. I said, I came out of this part of the wheat field, like this little opening. I came out and I yelled at you, and you guys all turned around and run. And they flat out denied it. And one of them finally said, just stop trying to steal our spotlight.
Oh, boy.
And that was it. So, like, that really hit me hard. I mean, that was pretty rude, and it shows that they were only looking for attention. But that experience really hit me. Like, okay, they have information. They've been presented information that refutes their claim. Yet they're ignoring it because they want it to be true.
Right.
And then I started looking at myself going, did I do this? Have I done this before? Have I done this to people's houses when I've gone to like private residences and I've told them they had a ghost, even though there was enough evidence to say, no, there wasn't? And it was really a time of reflection. And I started looking into the skeptical literature. I found Skeptical Inquirer magazine, which I now write for, and read some of the work like Ben Radford and Joe Nickell, and realized, like, wow, they're actually doing science. They're doing investigative journalism, and this is how you do it. And that really changed my entire perspective, because I felt that in my ghost hunts, I won't even call them investigations. In my ghost hunts, I only looked for what I wanted to find, and I ignored everything else. I did that. This group in Gettysburg did that. And I see a lot of people doing this in this community. And it's wrong, because we're giving out misinformation. We are causing anxiety and fear in people and families that we don't need to be doing. So I kind of made it my mission to make sure that I was doing right. My mission is not to debunk everything. And I know we already used that term at the beginning, and I want to clarify, like, I'm not out to debunk everything. I'm out to find the truth. My job is to investigate these claims and find out exactly what's going on and inform the public of that. So that's my goal. That's my whole origin story in a nutshell. I hope you liked it.
And I did. I really do like it. I like how, you kind of seen that, hey, wait a minute, there's something happening here, and people are misconstruing what they're seeing. Even though if that was me up there and you said, hey, that was me yelling at you guys, I'd have been like, no way. We would just start laughing and chuckling, and I'd have been done with it. I'd have been like, well,
right.
That solved that problem.
Right. And you know what? There's a lot of people are like that. I'm the token skeptic, air quotes, but I do have a lot of friends and really good relationships with people throughout the paranormal community. And I love having them. I love maintaining them.
Yes.
Because I think it's important. I want to work together. I don't want to work against people.
Exactly.
And there are a lot of people where they'll come to me and ask, like, what do you think of this picture? What do you think of this video? What do you think of this experience? And I'll tell them my opinion. And they consider it. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Okay. It's a bummer. Because they really thought they had something. But now when we look at it and we try to test it, we realize, okay, we found the actual cause to this. We actually solved a mystery. And that's the important part.
Yes.
I mean, if you and I are calling ourselves paranormal investigators, that means our job is to investigate paranormal claims.
Yes.
Not fear-mongering, not promoting misinformation. We are supposed to solve that mystery. And I think if we can do that, that's great. If we're not doing that, then we're no better than just people going out like weekend warriors. They're just going out for fun every weekend.
Right.
They're not helping anyone.
And I say that a lot. I see a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with this. Obviously, I see a lot of people. They go to Pennhurst and Waverly, and they consider themselves paranormal investigators. But I do not consider that a paranormal investigation unless you rent the place out for a week and do some serious study on that, because you're going to have so much interference with other people there, and how would you know? If you're going out to a place
if you're renting or the pay to play, that's what I like to refer to them. Pay to play places every weekend, and that's all you're doing. You're just ganging up with a whole bunch of other people, like 10, 20, 30 other people that you don't know. And you're just walking around these places and you're playing with your gadgets. You're taking pictures, you're laughing, you're joking at all. And then you walk away and call yourself an investigator. I think you're being deceitful to yourself, because you're not an investigator. You're a thrill seeker.
Yes.
And again, like you said, like there's that fine line. If you want that thrill, that's one thing. That's cool. You know, people love going to haunted houses, like attractions. That's cool. You want to go out to a scary place that has a reputation for being haunted and just have that scary, spooky experience. That's cool. But don't walk away like trying to impose onto the public that you have some kind of authority as an investigator, because now you're just lying to people.
Yes.
And you're giving a false impression. So,
and that's exactly how I look at it as well. The pay-to-play places, I feel, it's a social club.
Yes.
And I don't use, like, I love Paracons and stuff like that, because now you're out there talking to like-minded people. I love that kind of stuff. And you're listening to different points of view. But at public investigation, you're not doing anything. You're just there.
You're just having fun.
That's right. You're just there. I see it so much.
Same way. I like conferences. I mean, I go to like the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash.
Yes.
I go to New Jersey, the Para-Unity Conference. Even though I have an issue with the name Para-Unity. I mean, that's a separate issue. But
yes, it is.
I love going to these conferences because I think there's a lot of cool people there. Some of the arts and crafts and stuff like that is really cool. I mean, I'm one of the biggest. I'm literally a professional skeptic. Yet I probably have one of the largest collections of alleged haunted items and like Ouija boards, talking boards. I have all kinds of creepy shit. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can curse.
Sure.
But I forget to ask sometimes. But I mean, I have a huge collection of creepy stuff. My office here is just filled with, well, not only vintage cameras, but I have a lot of creepy stuff from like Mothman and Ghostbusters and Loch Ness and Bigfoot and all that kinds of stuff because I love it. And I love hanging out with the people. Most of the people are really nice. Some are not, but most of them are.
Yes.
And I mean, ghost hunters, they can drink, man. And I love hanging out. I love hanging out with them and having discussions like this. You know, we're having nice discussions, friendly discussions. We can disagree and debate, but as long as we don't get hostile about it, you know, and we're still good and we can have a beer or a drink afterwards, you know, I love that. I absolutely love it.
Absolutely. And if you're in this field, then you should be open to have your stuff screened over and, you know, like you could listen to my EVPs and be like, oh, you know what? This is what this sounds like to me, you know,
right.
And I'm going to be like, oh, you know what? I never even thought of that. This is the kind of collaboration that I want to say that's what it was when I was younger. Now it's almost like it's just cutthroat. Everybody's like, you know, hey, we're going to be the next, you know, paranormal TV show. And we're going to,
you know, it's become, it used to be territorial. So like when I started again, back in the 90s, ghost hunting groups were territorial. They didn't want you going into their spot,
right? Like
their piece of land or their like bed and breakfast or inn or whatever. Like they laid claim to it and you weren't allowed in it.
Yep.
Then it opened up, and then you're into like today where you don't want people to critique. You don't want criticism, and you want everyone to get along. And this is the issue I have with the name or the term Para-Unity. And it's nothing against the New Jersey Para-Unity Conference. I love the people that organize that. They're great. They're awesome to me. I just want to make sure I'm not, you know, I don't want anyone thinking I'm trashing them because I'm not.
No, absolutely.
The term Para-Unity, as I understand it, is that everyone just gets along and everyone just accepts what everyone else is doing, and that there is no right way to do it, and everyone does it their own way, and it's okay. And honestly, that's bullshit.
Yes.
Pure and simple. It's bullshit. There are right ways of doing things. And for the most part, we don't see that in the paranormal community. There's a lot of ignorance. And when I say ignorance, I mean a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding in it. And you mentioned about being open to criticism or new ideas. And that's something that we should be doing. You should be looking for, like, paranormal enthusiasts. If they get something like a photo or video or EVP, audio, whatever, they should be looking for someone like me. Not necessarily me, but someone like me.
Yes.
To critique their work. Someone that will look at it and say, well, I have an idea about this, or tell me more about the situation and the environment. Maybe we can come up with some ideas. But I have a big problem with automatically assuming something is paranormal when you have no idea what caused that experience.
Yes.
Say you had a video clip or a picture or audio, whatever the experience is. If you don't know what caused it, then you don't have a conclusion. You don't know what caused it. Bottom line.
Exactly.
So when you walk away and call it paranormal, you're lying to people.
Yes.
Maybe not intentionally, but you are. You are lying to people. And I think that needs to be reined in, and people need to understand, look, I'm going to put this out there. I don't know what this is. And here's another sore point sometimes. If you put something out there in the public and ask for opinions, you damn well better mean that.
Yes.
So many times it's like, all right, they're asking for opinions. And I'm like, well, here's my opinion. And I get blocked. Or my comments get deleted because they really don't want a negative opinion or a different opinion. Maybe I should put it that way, because I try. Again, I have a background in photography. I have a background in video editing. So I can offer some of that insight and say, well, I think it's this. I think, an optical illusion or lens flare, or, these things lined up and created this illusion of a person or a face, pareidolia, all these explanations. And if you're putting it out there, you should be listening to this.
Right.
Like if you don't like it, that's one thing. We can have a discussion about it. And I'm open to that. I'm totally open. We can have a discussion. But to cut me off right away, or cut off someone that just offers a valid explanation, then you are being closed-minded.
Yes.
Yes. You've already made up your mind. You don't want to hear anything that's different from your opinion. That's closed-minded. That's the definition of being closed-minded.
And it reminds me of a meme that I used to see constantly. In fact, I had printed it out and put it on my wall at one point. It says, most people don't really want the truth. They just want constant reassurance that what they believe is the truth.
Yes.
And to me, that makes absolute sense.
It's the way of the world right now. Social media is both a blessing and a curse. It really is. I mean, I love being able to keep in touch with friends and family. I love getting to see what people are doing from all over the world. But on the downside, you can put whatever crap you want out there. You don't have to fact check. You don't have to do anything. You can just put it out there, and it's out there. And it's really difficult when you challenge that. When somebody posts a meme, especially a meme, oh my God. And, it's in relation to some experience they had where they're like, oh, I experienced a demon and somebody was possessed and this and that. Brother. Yeah. Oh, I do the same thing, bro. Oh, every damn day, man. But then I start typing, and I try to be polite. I really do try to be as polite as possible and just say, look, I have a different approach to this, or a different idea. Maybe it's this. And right away, it's like you're blocked. You are they curse you out. Everyone starts jumping on you. And it's like a massive just attack. And it's ridiculous. Honestly, we should be working together.
Yes.
We should be working. I'm not your enemy. If you're out there, if you consider yourself a believer or a ghost hunter or UFO hunter or Bigfoot or a squatcher, I think they're called. I'm not your enemy. I'm trying to help improve the quality of your work.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you don't want that, that's on you. That reflects on you, not me.
Yes, and a lot of people that I see in this field, and this is the people that I'm talking about are like the small percentage. The most of the people that I meet in this field are all awesome people, but there are the ones that are kind of the ones that drag everybody down. And these are the ones that I'm talking about, the kind that have, I don't want to say they have blinders on, but they don't have both eyes open. They have one eye open and they're looking through a tube and they don't see the big picture. They only see just that.
Right.
It's kind of like blind believers. And I hate to say blind believers, but there's a lot of them. They see that speck of dust and they say, that's great grandma. And they're like, get the sage. You need to sage your place. And I'm like, oh my goodness, let's just step back a second, take a look at this. So,
hey, you're right. I agree with you. There's a lot of really awesome people.
Yes.
And I have a lot of friends that are in this community and we disagree on a lot of things. Like
absolutely.
A lot. But we can still be friendly. Doesn't mean I hate you as a person. For me, this is quite literally a job. This is my full-time job. I investigate this stuff full-time, and I don't take it personally. We can have a heated debate. And, I mean, I give you an example. I do a podcast called Three Tortured Souls. It's once a month that we do it. It used to be every week, but now it's once a month. And my two co-hosts, Tim Vickers and Dave Schumacher. Dave and I have different views on parapsychology, different opinions, and we've had some heated debates on this topic. Yet, by the time we're done, before we go offline or part ways, we hug each other. We've already been drinking a couple beers or drinks and shake hands. We are always good friends. There's no hatred. There's no, I'm going to talk shit about that guy later. I can't wait to tell everyone how awful he is. No, because we understand it's not personal.
That's right.
This is work. And again, we're not trying to make the other one look like a fool. And I would say for the most part, that's not what I'm trying to do for anyone. There's a few out there, that deserve it.
Yes.
I think they're really horrible people and they should be made an example of, but far and few between.
Yes.
For the most part, I'm all for helping you out. I'm all for trying to work with you and work together towards something, to a better understanding. And I think that's the goal for everyone. That should be the goal for everyone, a better understanding.
Oh, absolutely. I like talking to you. If I sent you my stuff and was like, hey, just what do you think about this whole case in general? And you give me your opinion. You know what? There's a lot that I could probably run with that opinion, because things that I didn't think of. Now, at the very end of the day, of course, it's going to be the investigator's decision on if he's going to claim paranormal or not. I've done hundreds of residential and business clients, hundreds. In fact, I have another one coming up. But I have never told anybody that their house was haunted, ever. Because I can't prove that. The most I can do is say, you know what, you have some stuff that I just don't understand that's going on. And, it's worth taking another look at if you want. But right. I've never told anybody that their place is haunted. Because, unless we could all die at the exact same time, learn everything about it, and then come back. And even then, there'd probably be arguments on someone's interpretation of it.
You really said it. You said it that there's. We have different perspectives, and there's things that you might know, you might have expertise in or knowledge in that I don't, and vice versa. So, for a group of people, like a ghost hunting team, to go in, and this is a pet peeve of mine since the beginning. When ghost hunters get together, they form a group. for some reason, there's this unwritten rule that they automatically become experts in every subject that's needed, even though they probably don't have any experience in any of it. You know, there's a couple groups more than a couple that I've come across that had nobody with experience in photography, videography, audio, nothing except for pushing the button on the camera or hitting record and play on a digital recorder.
Right.
Like that's the extent of their experience. And that's not expertise. That's not experience that you can change into interpreting results. It's not. So that kind of group should be actively looking for experts in those areas to consult with. For that group to go online and put out on a website or a social media saying, we've determined that this is legitimate. That's absolute bullshit.
Right.
Absolute. I mean, 100% pure grade, stink up the entire yard bullshit.
Yes.
But we see that all the time.
Yes. Or you always see the claims. You see the claims that this is 100% verifiable proof. Huh? How is that 100? Give me a break.
Right. Yeah. Like, where'd you get your conclusion? Let me see the data. You know? And that's another thing. Like, that's what science does. You go in the scientific community, and you put out a claim. You have to back that up. And it's usually backed up with some kind of academic paper.
Yes.
And if somebody makes that claim, and if somebody like me comes along and goes, well, let me see your data. You know what? They show it to you.
Yes.
No hesitation. They show it to you. And they say, here it is. Here's everything you know. Most authors of a paper, you can email them directly and say, hey, you know, I know your paper is behind a paywall. I can't get to it. Would you send it to me? Most of them will say yes, and they send it to you. So you can see their data and you can review it. You can ask questions. I can't tell you how many authors of papers I've emailed with questions, and they respond. And it's great. That's how it should be.
Yes.
And I really wish the ghost hunting community would follow suit and understand this.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it would be a much better place.
Absolutely. And it's, you know, it reminds me of, what was his name? Randy? James Randi. With his $1 million, if you can prove this is paranormal, I think it was $1 million. If you can prove it's paranormal, you'll get and it's still, I think, being offered.
No, it's not.
Is it not? Okay.
No, that's been defunct for a few years now because it's just everyone failed the preliminary tests, so they stopped doing it. However, there is another test. It's a $500,000 test from the CFIIG, which is the Center for Inquiry Investigations Group. They're based in Los Angeles, California. They're a branch of CFI, which is the Center for Inquiry, who I work for. And I can refer you to them. If you have some kind of claim of like a superpower and you really think you can demonstrate it, I can refer you to them because I get a kickback. I mean, I'm totally on board with that. But there are challenges out there for people that want to prove such claims. And I think it's great because in the end, if you want to say, oh, I don't do it for the money, that's fine. Donate to charity. There are so many charities out there especially for kids, for cancer, all of this stuff. Donate the money to cancer.
Yes.
Or all these charities. Do that. And you can still prove to the world that you have superpowers and you can actually do a good thing with it.
Yes.
So that's why I think it's good. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is he even still alive? I mean, he was.
No. Unfortunately, Randy. Yeah, he passed away a few years ago.
I was going to say, man, I remember watching his interviews and stuff, and I'm like, oh, yeah, see, look at this guy. He was a illusionist or something, a magician or something.
He was a magician, escape artist. He was like Houdini. Very good escape artist. Very much a showman. So he was definitely out there in the public eye. And he was. I had the chance to meet him a few times. At different
fantastic!
Times. And beautiful man. I mean, very, very sweet, very sincere. Gave me a hug every time I saw him, and just really, really nice guy when you met him in person. on stage, on the air, when he's doing a challenge, he was all business. So, but good man in the end.
Well, he was basically then like you said, Houdini, because Houdini did the same thing. He would call out mediums and psychics, and
Houdini had a lot of help too. I mean, he had Rose Mackenberg, which was his like chief investigator, and she would actually dress up in disguise and go to mediums in advance of his shows. She would have a reading, write down exactly how they did everything, because she was trained by Houdini to spot the tricks. She would write down everything and then report back to Houdini, and Houdini would come to town about 10 days afterwards, do a show, and part of his show was actually recreating the seance of the local psychic or the local medium. And it was great. It exposed a lot of people for the fakes that they were. It was really good. I wish he would have lived much longer, because I think he would have had a lot to teach us about just detecting tricks, detecting falsehoods, and just sleight of hand. There's that's a whole nother show. But lots to learn from him, and I continue to study his work, all his writings, and because there's so much more that I can learn from him.
Yes. Yeah, we never stop learning. We continue to learn, and that's right. The beauty of it, And it's how you interpret this stuff too. Some people and I'm going to use the Bible as a perfect example. Some people take those words literally when there's enough room for reading between the lines.
Yeah, you can always put your own spin on any interpretation.
Sure.
That's why it's good to get so many, and to make sure the interpretations are educated. I wouldn't go to a plumber with a problem about cooking.
Yes.
You just wouldn't do that. And yet that's what's happening. You have people that from all walks of life being asked about beliefs, essentially. Their beliefs in ghosts and demons and what happens in the afterlife, when there's absolutely no facts about it.
Yes.
It's beliefs, and everyone has their own interpretation. And you hear it all the time. You ask people what they think, and they're like, well, I think this way, or my version of this, and I don't follow, their rules. I go this way. Everyone has their own interpretation.
Yes.
That's why I just like looking at the information, the facts that come in, the clues that come in, the data. Let's look at that. What does the data say? And again, that's where education comes into play, because you want someone that's educated in that field to give you a good interpretation, because they're the ones that know what they're looking at.
Right.
Me, it depends on the subject. If I'm standing next to someone that is a farmer, just has done farming all his life, nothing else, and someone hands me and him a photograph and says, this is a photograph of a ghost, I think I'm going to have a better idea of what's going on in that photograph than he is.
Yes.
And that's just based on expertise. So that's what we have to think about when we're making these interpretations. Do you have the experience? Do you have the education? Are you qualified? And if you're not, don't be afraid to say you're not. It's okay.
Yes.
It's not embarrassing. It's not a bad thing. If you don't know, you don't freaking know. And just be honest about it.
And you're right. And one thing that needs to be changed is people's experiences are their experiences. An experience isn't proof of anything. It's an experience. Yeah. So I think that gets turned a lot. People's like, well, I played with a Ouija board and this happened. And I'm like, okay. So that is basically just an experience. That's something that you believe in your mind happened to you. And I'm not going to say that you're wrong because it's your experience. But let me tell you about Ouija boards. So, yes. And there's a big thing. A lot of people think that because they said it, that's the truth, and that's how it should be. Hey, Ken, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
don't know what the heck just happened.
You know what? I saw a little timer at the top say it was counting down. And I just thought it was like, all right, we're just having a meeting. Maybe you set it for like an hour and it was just saying, hey, you're over in an hour, but everything closed.
I was like, I'm telling you this story. I'm like, what the heck just happened? You don't mind continuing on with this, do you?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. And that's what I was saying. I don't know when we got cut off, but I was just saying that a person's experience isn't factual stuff. That is their experience, and you can't take that experience from someone, but you can explain about the Ouija board. They claim that they had the experience, and that's fine. But when you really get down to the Ouija board, say, well, this is what I know about a Ouija board. So
yeah, I mean, your experience is coming from your perspective. So everyone's perspective is different. So your experience is subjective. Which is an issue. I mean, when I interview people about their experiences, that's usually a starting point. Their story is not fact to me. It is a starting point. Yes. When you start looking at what they said, the descriptions they gave me, the time frame that they gave me, because once you start checking into it, in my experience, I found that it doesn't always line up, and it's not intentional. I want to make that clear. Some people you remember things, you remember events in a different kind of time, because like when things start happening, things happen suddenly. And things happen fast, and you're trying to think fast. And what do you do? How do you do this?
Yes.
You don't remember the timeline correctly or accurately. So when we go through it over and over again, we try to piece everything together. Usually the timeline is off, the descriptions are off, the amount of witnesses or lack of witnesses is off.
Yes.
And so much. Experiences are definitely a starting point. And people's memory it's fallible. I mean, there's been a lot of studies, a lot of tests, and I mean, you can look it up. I suggest if you want to read about memory, Elizabeth Loftus, look her up. She is literally the world's foremost expert in memory research. Excellent books that she has. She's a really nice person too. But there's gaps in our memory when we're suddenly confronted with an experience, like a sudden experience. You don't remember everything like a recorder. Yes. You don't record everything like a video camera or just a still camera or an audio recording. You fill in the gaps. There's lots of gaps, and you fill it in. So your details are going to be off. That's one of the reasons if there's multiple witnesses, I try to separate them as soon as possible and talk to them separately, because you're going to get two different stories. And I've come across times where one witness has told me about experiences that they weren't actually present for, but they heard it from the other witnesses so many times that it became part of their story.
Yes.
So that's something you have to tease out too.
And that would be like, you remember that thing, you could all be in a row and one person at the very end can start telling a story, and by the time it gets to the very first person, it's going to be completely
the telephone game.
Yes.
Yeah. You start a story, by the time you get to the end, it's a different story. And that's going to happen because people put their own spin on it, or if they don't like something about a story. And that's another thing when it comes in, like, and I'm not picking on religion, but I'm kind of picking on religion. If your religious beliefs don't conform to the story, you might leave something out.
Yes.
Or overemphasize the importance of some detail because you don't like that detail. So the story will change not only in form, but in context and inflection and emotion along the way. So that's why you got to get the information as soon as possible from the sources. I don't like getting second or third hand stories. I mean, we all do.
Sure.
But if I'm on a case, if I take something as a case, I will track down primary sources. And if I can't, then I won't use a bit of information. Or I'll tell you outright, like, this is speculation because it's second or third hand, because you need that primary source.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard stories, legends, of ghosts or at like a haunted house or something like that, and you hear the stories told by tour guides, but then you go back to the original newspaper account, like from 1800s, and you realize it's a completely different story.
Yes.
Completely different.
Or it never even happened.
Yeah. It never happened. I mean, the Conjuring House. That is a really good example. Because the Conjuring House, you've seen the movie, right? The first one, at least.
I have. Yes, I've seen them all. Okay.
So the movie and then books by someone that used to live in the house.
Yes. Yep.
Would blame a certain woman named Bathsheba Sherman for causing so much of the evil. And I dived into that research. That was like 9 months of my life that I dived into all the research, the documents, everything, and found that Bathsheba had nothing to do with that house, didn't have anything to do with the family, never lived there, never did anything. The crime that she was allegedly reported to have done, which was like stick a sewing needle in the back of a baby's neck and killed the baby.
Wow.
Never happened. It never took place. There's no historical mention of it at all. Yet this story just mushroomed like a nuclear blast, especially after the movie came out. And everyone blames this poor woman who's long dead that cannot defend herself for haunting a location. The only good thing that's come of it is the owner now, and I don't know her. I haven't met her personally yet or even talked to her, but from what I hear, the new owner is trying to dispel those the stories, like try to tell people like these stories about all these people dying in this house didn't actually happen, which is a nice thing. I actually like that.
Right. Now, do you think that possibly, okay, maybe they had some kind of experience, paranormal experience, but it is Hollywood and they're going to hype it all up. You know what I mean? They're going to make it evil and demonic and that, because that's ratings and followers right there.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can't have a horror movie without horror.
That's right. Yes.
I get it.
So what, I wonder what, if this person was just a family friend, but maybe she was into voodoo-ish type of things, and that's where it came from, and it got added. And
there's not even a hint of that.
Oh,
it's literally the only thing we can speculate, and I stress it, speculate, is that the original person that looked up this information just decided to blame this woman. That's it. For no other reason except maybe she didn't like her name. Because she was long dead and no one could actually check up on this. Because when this information started coming out, it was still difficult to track it down via internet. So, and we'll find that a lot with like Amityville and the Haunting Connecticut, and like the entity cases, all these hauntings or poltergeist, big haunted cases, legendary cases that happened in the 70s, they were before a time where you could look everything up.
Yes.
I can sit here in my office and I can research the crap out of something and find documents, details, copies of newspaper articles, crime scene photos. I can find all of that and verify whether something happened or not. Back in the 70s, when these stories were coming out in the news and doing the old school viral, which means like the newspapers all shared it, Associated Press shared it, you could not look this stuff up so easily. It would take you weeks or months, maybe years, in order to get all the facts together.
Yes.
So nobody bothered. It was just too much work. You'd have a few people, and they have books out. I mean, you can all look into the various stories, but my point is, it took a lot of work then. Now, in this day, it's so easy to research things that trying to get such a story past people is extremely difficult, if not impossible anymore.
Right. And that's good. And see,
that is good.
That whole house, I've seen the movies, and I don't know her personally, but I am Facebook friends with her because I like to follow her stuff. And I've never read her book on what actually happened.
We're talking about the Conjuring House?
Yes.
All right.
So I never read it. I know she's a really nice person, and I have no idea what really happened there, but I hear people saying they went to that house and, all this demonic stuff. And I'm like, oh, please. I was like, demonic stuff is, to me, is like an exorcism. I can't stand it. I think that they're BS. For the main fact is, all the ones that happened back in the day, they knew nothing about mental illnesses and things like that. So, I mean, I'd imagine there were some that really took that into consideration, but the majority of them are all bunk, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't buy into them. There's a lot that there's usually discrepancies with all of them, whether it's Amityville or Conjuring House or even like the Enfield poltergeist case. There's a lot of discrepancies with the alleged facts, the stories that are going on. And you have to dig into it. A lot of this stuff, especially in recent times, it's publicity. It's hey, let me write my story. I'll get a book, maybe a movie deal.
Yes.
And it's, I think the temptation is there and it's really strong. I mean, years ago, it used to be where I went to, and let me know if you've experienced this, but you go to a paranormal conference and you saw a lot of teams that had tables set up and they started talking about a pilot they were filming.
Yes.
Or they're going to do this show. They're trying to get a show on like Netflix or Amazon or something like that. Everyone wants to get on TV.
Yes.
But you know what? That's do the freaking work. Stop trying to get on TV in front of the camera and get famous. If you want to get famous, do some solid research.
Yes.
Make a difference. And they're not. They are not doing a difference. They are making fools of themselves and the entire community. You see a lot of these ghost hunting shows, and it's just extremely ridiculous.
Yes.
The stunts they pull, I want to put air quotes around experiments that they try, and the money that they waste on equipment without testing it, but just saying, well, it lit up, therefore ghost.
Right.
That's not how it works, people.
And those devices, millimeters, K2s, none of them are for paranormal investigation.
No.
It's just to give you kind of a baseline if there's a flux in temperature or whatnot. It's not right. It's not really any scientifical. From what I understand, they're like unshielded.
If you want to get an idea of the environment, and if there's any anomalous readings of environmental measurements, like your temperature, your humidity, radiation, whatever, magnetic fields, whatever, you need to do a study for at least. All of these factors have to be considered. So you have to get a really good baseline, and that's at least a year. I would say a lot more, at least a year.
Okay, so let me back you up just a second, because whatever happened, my whole audio just went out. It's almost like they don't want me talking to you. The government's listening. They're like, no. So go ahead back just a little bit and explain that again with these meters, which you was just talking about.
Okay. So when you want to do base readings, that's what we're calling them, base readings. You want to go into a location for at least a year, and that's just at the very least. And why you want to do that is because you want to go through all the seasons, especially if you're in an area that changes in climate throughout the year. You want to go through the cycles of the day and then the week, because people work during the day, people live during the day, and if it's a private residence, people live there more at night because, usually mom and dad go out to work and maybe the kids are at school. So no one's at home except for the dog or the cat. And at night, that's when a lot of activity is going on because people are there. They're having dinner together. There's things going on, people watching TV or working at home, what have you. You also have people that work at home and then maybe go out at night. So there's going to be different cycles. So if you're measuring temperature, humidity, you're measuring EMF, you're measuring barometric pressure, you're measuring whatever, it's going to be different throughout the day and what day of the week it is. So you want to have that consistent data. You want to have those data points and see the patterns throughout the days, throughout the weeks, throughout the months, throughout the year. And then, only then, you can start looking for anomalies. And that's something that is a deviation from the norm. And it has to be a pretty good anomaly, not just a little glitch here and there. Not a big deal. I mean, still look into it. Who knows?
Sure.
But it might be something like the toaster's on the fritz, and it's drawing too much power.
Sure.
So therefore, that'll cause a spike in your EMF in that area if you're measuring that area. So my problem, the point that I'm getting here is that when you see ghost hunting teams go into a location for like a 4-hour or 5-hour or maybe overnight, which is maybe like 6 or 8 hours, and they spend all of 10 minutes or 15 minutes doing their base readings, you should just save your time. You're wasting it.
Yes.
By doing that. You're not getting any readings. You're not getting any usable readings, and you're just wasting your time. When it comes to like EMF, most people or most groups that I see use single axis meters. And that means that you have to actually rotate that meter on all 3 axes. You have to spin it in 3 different circles, 3 different orientations in order to get an average reading. If you're not doing that, you're not getting a valid reading. So when you walk in and you're holding it in your hand, now everybody imagine, you walk into a room, you have the K2 meter or an EMF meter that's in your hand, you're holding it like you hold your phone, and it's right in front of you, and you walk in, you walk around the room, you go to the left, you walk around to the right side, and then you walk out. That's it. You didn't get an accurate reading of that room. You just got a few points of data. That's it. You actually have to rotate it throughout that entire room. And I know this sounds like a lot, but that's what it takes. That's really what it takes. That's why I suggest you actually get a tri-field meter, because that reads all 3 axes at the same time.
Yes.
And then put it in a room and leave it alone. Put a data logger on it, because you need a data logger. Because if you're not monitoring all that data throughout the entire investigation, you're also wasting your time. But I mean, I'm taking up a lot of it. I'm talking a lot. So, I mean, if you have questions, let's get into it, because there's so much to talk about just with equipment.
Oh, yes. I mean, that's definitely a given. And I'm big on, did that light on that meter go off because there was a solar flare 6 hours ago? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it could very well be. I love the paranormal. I really do. I think that there's a lot of things that I can't explain, that I've tried to explain, and I can't. But that's me personal. And
right.
When I look at things like the meters, and I hate when I see people like, oh my God, it's blinking. There's, that's a spirit. I'm like, oh, brother. But I want to know environmental stuff. I want to know, what was the barometric pressure? I mean, was there a storm coming? Maybe it was an electrical storm. I want to know these different things before I say it was paranormal.
There's a method to doing this, and it's called having controls, experimental controls. So if you want to do an experiment, which when you put out a K2 meter, like any kind of EMF meter, you're collecting data. If you are just waiting for it to light up, then you're doing something called anomaly hunting. And that means you're just looking for things that stand out to you as something weird.
Yes.
Like you mentioned it. Like, why did that light go off? Why did the little lights, light up? Why? That's the question. And did you control for everything that can make that meter go off that you know about? So, for example, a two-way radio that so many people use. Camera crews use it. Production crews use it when we're filming all these ghost hunting shows. If you key that up, that can make your K2 or any other EMF meter go off. It can also make a REM pod or anything else that uses a junior Thurman device. So like a REM pod is just, that's one brand. You know, there's a whole bunch of gadgets out there that use the same exact junior Thurman device inside of it.
Absolutely.
So a two-way radio will make that go off. So what are you doing as an investigator to control for that? For me, I built a Faraday box. And this is not something I ordered off of Amazon. This is not something I ordered from anyone else. I built it so I could test it and make sure that it would block both FM and AM signals and radio frequency that I was putting out with the two-way radios. So, I mean, I can put my two-way radio within inches of where an EMF or a REM pod is inside the box and not make it go off. To me, that's secure. That's a control.
Yes.
So now if I put that out there and say, all right, you know what? Make this make noise. Make the REM pod do its like, you know, and it doesn't do anything. So, I mean, this is what all the ghost hunters and paranormal investigators should be doing. But instead, it looks better. It's more fun to just put it out in the middle of the floor and wait for something to happen.
Yes.
That's not science. That's not investigating.
No.
That's thrill seeking.
Yes.
We go back to the beginning of our conversation. It's thrill seeking. You're just waiting for that next high because you see the light go off. You hear the noise and you're like, oh yeah, that's a ghost. That's a ghost. And you get that shot of adrenaline. And it's that almost like haunted attraction thrill that you get. But it's not actually investigating anything. You know, like what does that mean? It lit up, big deal.
Right. Exactly.
You know, what kind of data are you pulling from that? You're not pulling anything. You're just watching it light up.
Right. The real being excited would be like, why did it light up? And now let's figure out the answer.
Right.
You know, that to me is the excitement of it.
And that's where it comes in with the not knowing the conclusion, not knowing what caused it. You can't just walk away from that and go, oh, we went to this place on a ghost hunt and the REM pod lit up. That means we saw a ghost. You know, like, no, it doesn't. Doesn't mean you saw a ghost. Doesn't mean you experienced a ghost. Doesn't mean a ghost came in and danced on top of the REM pod. Doesn't mean any of that. All that means is that the REM pod lit up.
That's it.
You have to figure out why.
That's right.
That part seems to escape most groups, and it's sad.
Yes, and what you said, like I see a lot of paranormal investigators and experts, and we know that there's none of that. Now, you can be an expert in photography and be part of that group. Audio, as you said before, that you're experienced in that stuff, and you know a lot about that stuff. So yes, having that kind of experience, that's different than being a paranormal expert, or because I don't believe in that.
I mean, like you can be like, let's for example, a folklorist. You can be an expert in folklore.
Sure.
You can talk about all the different kinds of folklore and how it came to be, origin stories, all that stuff. That's cool. But when you say I'm a paranormal expert, I have no idea what that means.
Right.
Like what the hell are you talking about? You know, like, yeah, I have expertise in photography. I have some expertise in video editing. I have expertise in some audio adjustment and editing. I have various expertise in automotive, aerospace. My background is pretty extensive with mechanical and electrical stuff. So I can give you some good advice.
Absolutely.
Some educated opinions on it. When it comes to plumbing, I'm an idiot. I have no idea. I'm not going to give you advice. I'm not going to tell you what to do because, I mean, you'll end up just dumping water into your basement if you listen to me.
Duct tape, that works. That's
Duct tape, little glue, super glue, that's fine.
I mean, fine. Isn't duct tape, that's, aliens brought us that, I think.
What's that stuff? Flex Seal?
Flex Seal, yeah.
Just slap that stuff on it. You'll be fine. No big deal. But I mean, if I do encounter something that's outside of my wheelhouse, outside of my expertise, then I seek out experts. I look for people that have this knowledge, have this background, have the education in the field that I'm looking for advice in. And I'll reach out to them, whether it's chemists or biologists, physicists, whatever. I'll reach out to them and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here. Could you help me out? And there's plenty of people out there that will help. You just have to ask. And I think that's, I don't know, that's something I'd like to explore. I don't know if it's just a thing with like pride or ego where, back to what we were talking about earlier, where it's like everyone suddenly becomes an expert in every kind of field that they need to be because they call themselves a ghost hunter.
Right.
I don't know if it's like an ego thing where you won't reach out for help. You won't reach out for advice from someone that really knows what they're doing when you clearly do not know what you're doing in a specified subject. Like I don't understand that.
Right. To
me, it's so easy. It's commonplace. It's just the right thing to do because I don't want to be wrong. And I think that's something we all share. I hate being wrong. I've been wrong. It's embarrassing. I own it now. I mean, I used to hide it, back in my younger years, you're wrong. You want it to go away.
That's where that ego comes in.
Yeah. You don't want anyone knowing. So you delete a post, you block people, you do all this. So no one can like, oh, look, he was wrong. No, nowadays it's like, if I'm wrong and someone shows me that I'm wrong, I admit it freely.
Yes.
I'll write up a new post like, hey, I don't delete the old one. I keep it up, but I write a new one saying, look, I was wrong with this. I said this and I was wrong. This is the correct information.
Yes.
And I love it. I absolutely love it. I like being proven wrong because then I get to learn something and I'm better for it afterwards.
Well, it's like most people when they go into and I grew up lucky because my dad he was an architect and a contractor. So I grew up knowing how furnaces work and how your houses are built and what keeps them together and all that good stuff. So I know that if someone tells me they hear scratching in their walls, I know the first thing I'm going to look for is some kind of a rodent.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, one person's scratch on that wall that they think's a demon is someone like me's mouse that is inside there.
Yep.
and it's so true. I mean, people are like, my door, it opens up by itself just ever so slowly. And I'm like, well, your house will contract and expand in different, and they can't grasp it. And it's like, look, if you want to be even kind of a paranormal investigator, you need to know how these houses work and that they expand and contract and, how the air system flows in that house.
Right.
Water, if you have water radiators, they can make banging and clanging sounds. And it's just things that I am such a debunker. I'm not full blown skeptic. I'm a skeptical believer. If you give me enough evidence to where I can say it's possibly, it could be possible or plausible but I'm not ever going to come right out and say, hey, this is, and if something flew off the wall, I mean, I would still be questioned. I'd be like, okay, well, that picture fell down. Now I'm going to go through this whole rabbit hole of what could have knocked that picture down.
Well, yeah, like that kind of stuff. It's weird when something like that, a picture frame falling off the wall, or sometimes you're told it flew off the wall. And this goes back to what we talked about with interpretation. Like, did it actually fly off the wall or did it just drop?
Yes.
Or did it hit something along the way and then, be projected out? And most of the time when that's occurred and I look at it, you can find that the nail that was in the wall just came out of the plaster.
Yes.
It was just weak. It fell, or a wire broke, or something just common like that. There was a case I just did in Ontario. I went up there, and a young lady that had weird things happening in her house.
I did read that, by the way.
Oh, okay. So
I was going to bring that up.
The dog bowl that she found, she claimed that the cabinet door flew open and the dog bowl just flew out and almost went down the stairs. And when we looked at it, when we really looked at it, we found that, okay, these doors don't close too securely. I mean, they did. They had like I forget what I called it. It had a latch on it that it did close, but not really good. But she had stuff packed in there. And the door didn't close all the way. So it had that little bit. It was just enough that eventually it worked its way out. And once it got freed enough, it sprang open. And because the dog bowl was put up sideways and pressed against the door, which caused the door to open, as soon as the door opened, the dog bowl fell out. And it didn't just drop down. It landed on the edge of a microwave, which made it bounce out further,
yes.
Which hit the counter, which hit the edge of the counter, which bounced out further, and then it made it down the stairs. So there was a logical reason why that happened. And the first description of it was that the dog bowl flew out of the cabinet, which it didn't. But that was her interpretation because of where she found it. She didn't actually see it. She didn't witness it.
Well, it fell with style. That's all.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, that's the interpretation some people have. Like, she wasn't lying about it.
Exactly.
She just had the impression that it flew out because of the distance it was from the cabinet.
Yes.
And that's something you have to look at. It's like, I didn't think for a moment that she was lying about it or trying to embellish it. It just, to her, from her view, it looked like it flew out.
Yes.
And once we talked about it and then we recreated it, and she was able to see what actually happens and how it could land, it was like, oh, okay, I understand it now. That's great. You know, that's the point of the investigation, to solve that mystery, and that's what we did.
Yes, and when I read the part, and you even showed a picture of it, how that clasp was. It was one of those kind of had the two springs on each side, and then the other piece kind of wedged in between. I was like, oh, you know what? I've seen those actually perform exactly how you're saying, that they can be pushed open if something's resting against them. So yes, I love that article.
That was good. I loved it too, because it was an opportunity to go through step by step, because she had several claims, and I think I mentioned in the article that there were a lot more that I couldn't include because it was just getting way too long of an article. But we went through each one by one, just went through it. I gave her my impression of what probably happened, and then when we could recreate it, we did. And then after each one, because I didn't like jump in between all of them, we took one at a time. When we were done, I said, "Are you satisfied that we were able to explain this?" And she said, "Yes." So I was happy. We moved on to the next one.
Good.
And eventually, and the great thing about that story is that, like, she was not able to sleep in her own bedroom for well over a year.
Oh, wow.
She was so scared because of all the other things. Like, there was a picture of a little boy that she thought was a ghost going into her bedroom. So she was absolutely terrified of sleeping in that room. And she was sleeping on the couch. And there was other people that came in. There was a psychic medium that came in that only made things worse. Right. So, I mean, that was a big win, that after I left, she called me the next morning and said, I finally was able to sleep in my own bed, and it's the best sleep I've had in so long. And I mean, I almost cried. I was so happy because this woman was so desperate for help.
And you truly helped her.
I did.
So it wasn't, someone saying, well, you got demons and now we got to, knock your house down. Right.
I mean, I wasn't like lighting weeds on fire and just walking around with the smoke going, your house is cleansed. No, I actually solved it to not to my satisfaction, but to her satisfaction. And we were both satisfied. And now her quality of life has improved greatly.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And it's nice. And not only that, like, I was able to teach her along the way, like, This is what you look for next time.
Yes.
This is what you look for. You look for this. Try this. You know, if something falls off the shelf, go over, put it back. See if it just falls over. Kind of like, you know, look around. See if there's something loose or what. You know, do you pile things too high? Do you pack things in a cabinet too much? Look at all this stuff. And I mean, even now, weeks later, she's said we're talking back and forth, and she's telling me about like other alleged haunted locations in her area, and she's figuring out what's going on with those on her own. And
oh, that's like, awesome!
Great.
Yes,
this is so wonderful. I love it.
But she didn't have that mindset that, hey, this is what happened, so it has to be ghosts and things. Right. It sounds like once you started to explain it, she actually grabbed a hold of that. A lot of people won't do that, though.
Agreed. There's that line that you have to cross. Some people are so invested in their belief,
yes,
that they don't want to give up. They don't want to give up their beliefs, and I guess it's a weird way to put it, because I'm really not trying to force you or get you to give up your belief. The problem is when you start preaching that belief to everyone as fact.
Yes.
Then I want to have a discussion about it. And if something is weird is going on and you don't know what's causing it, but I can come in and say, well, I think I know what's causing it. Here, let's recreate it. We recreate it. We figure out exactly what's going on. I think that furthers everyone's knowledge. That makes you a better investigator. However, if you see the answer, if the answer is right there, you understand it, you know, okay, great, this experience is explained, but then turn around and say, well, I'm going to believe it's a ghost anyway. That's the line. That shows me there's a line. You're not crossing it. You're just going to continue with your beliefs. And to me, that's kind of sad.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you're not growing, and you're going to tell other people your perspective based on your belief, even though you know that belief is wrong.
Exactly.
I think that's just sad and dishonest and a whole other bunch of words. I don't agree with it at all.
And see, like I think that I would prefer to watch ghost shows of you investigating these things and then explaining why this happened. You know, I would love to see that. Of course, you're not going to see that. And if you did do that, it probably wouldn't go anywhere because, you know, people like that fear. And if you're telling the truth, they don't want to hear it. If you're speaking demons and stuff, then yes, then it's going to be an instant hit. But I would rather watch shows like that where you're going to be using your brain and you're going to be looking at possible things that, okay, this bull fell out of the thing. Let's replicate it. Let's see how it happened.
It's honestly fun. I mean, that's the Scooby-Doo effect to me.
Yes.
You know, we're trying things. We're figuring it out. We're solving the mystery. And that's the joy that I get. That's the excitement that I get from solving each part of the mystery until we get to the end. And it's like, all right, I can say, you know, conclusively, this is what caused it. And we have all this data, all this evidence to back it up. And that I can be confident standing in front of a group of people or on stage and defending that conclusion. I have no problem doing that. And I mean, even around here, like my office, I'm the only one in the building that actually does this kind of work. But I get everyone else involved. So my coworkers get involved. If we see TikTok videos of alleged poltergeists or ghosts, if we see YouTube videos of the same thing, and I'm like, you know, I think I can recreate that. Yes. I think I know how they did it. I'll call my coworkers. There's a guy right next to me in the office next to me, and I'll just yell over like, "Hey, you want to be a ghost?" And he's like, "Hell yeah!" You know, and he runs over, and we start taking video throughout the building. And everyone here just understands what I'm doing. They have fun with it. They'll join in. I've had people throw crap at me. just so I can teleport objects around the world or around the office. And even if I'm like running down the aisle and jump onto a cart because, it's part of a video, my boss doesn't mind. He knows what I'm doing. We're having fun.
Yes.
And it looks like we're goofing off, but in the end, like I'll shoot him a video and say, look, this is what we did today. And he'll look at it and go, wow, that's pretty damn good. How'd you do that? How'd you do that? And it's a great work environment. And we all get to learn because some of these, you see a lot of these, like TikTok is just horrendous with the poltergeists and all kinds of videos.
Yes, it is.
I mean, oh my God, the amount of bullshit's on there. But it keeps me in business. But like we'll see videos and sometimes I'm like, I have no idea how they did that. No idea. And I mean, I have pretty good experience. So, and I mean, my free time is not really free time. I'm watching YouTube videos of like special effects crews. The Corridor crew, if you ever seen that, they are a bunch of special effects artists and they watch like ghost videos, they watch movies and they break down the special effects and tell you about it. So I learn a lot from them. But I'll see a video, have no idea how to do it, but I start filming and you as the viewer watch along the way as we figure out how to do this special effect, how to make ghost, make this monster, how to make this person disappear around a corner. It's fun and it's a big learning experience that's done for everyone. So I can't tell you how much I love my job.
Yes, I bet. and that's the kind of thing that people really need, especially if you're going to coin yourself as a paranormal investigator. You really need to be watching these types of things and learning about how this stuff works. Talking to someone like you, or like you said, getting a hold of someone that knows that part of it, the EMF stuff and things like that. I think that's very important, but it also, like you was saying about, is it someone's ego or pride and I believe that it definitely is. I mean, most people want to feel that they're right with their opinions and things like that. And when they hear somebody with way more experience, I think that just kind of like, well, they're wrong. I know what I'm talking about. I think that's what it comes down to. I don't think that the person's actually like, well, he's a dick. He just basically said that my stuff is nothing. And I'm sure some
put that off the table.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty out there. But I mean, I
get it. I want to say I get it. I understand it because I've been there. So like my early years when I was still a ghost hunter, still in my transition to more of a skeptical side, I had that mentality, that behavior where I thought I knew everything. And I believe this is part of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where the less you know, the more you think you know.
Yes.
About it. And I didn't know shit. I only knew what I saw on TV. Ghost Hunters was really new. That was a little bit later, but all the shows growing up, In Search of, Unsolved Mysteries, stuff like that. Like I watched these shows and I thought that's how you did it. I watched other ghost hunters at events like in Gettysburg or during Halloween, playing with their meters and just going out and taking random photos, taking photos over your shoulder, just using the flash, not using the flash. Using the oh my God, the horrible, horrendous DR60 audio recorder. We can talk about that if you want later. But doing all that stuff, like I just saw it and said, "All right, this is how it's done." So when someone questioned me or challenged me, I took that personally. I took offense to it.
Yes,
because I thought, "Don't you realize that I know what I'm doing?" Like that was my mentality. When honestly I didn't. I had no clue what I was doing. So that when that challenge comes up, I remember that feeling. So when I challenge people now, I really try to be as polite as possible. I try to be nice about it because I understand the first thing that's going to happen is going to cause a reaction of a feeling of confrontation.
Yes.
That's immediate. So if I can do it as nice as possible, if I can form my challenges in the form of a question, and try to get them to explain it a little bit better and maybe discuss it, that's the approach that I try to take, because I don't want to fight. I don't want people hating me because I don't agree with them. I mean, if we talk about it and you disagree with me and you're still trying to push something is wrong and you're trying to make money off of it, then I don't care if you don't like me because I don't like you. But I mean, bottom line is I really don't want people to not like me or be pissed off just because I challenged their beliefs or challenged their ideas. That's the way this goes. That's how we grow. We don't grow if we're stagnant. We have to be challenged. And if you are okay with being challenged, if you can stand up and defend your point of view, great. But if you can't defend your point of view, then maybe you should think about that.
Yes.
Think about why.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I feel that if you're telling me, if I'm explaining something to you and you say, wait a minute, this is what I'm seeing with this, then I should be grown up enough to say, okay, I want to hear his opinions as well, because that's only going to help me grow. And if it's something that he didn't know, that he overlooked, then he's going to learn too. So I think that's a win-win. Yeah.
I mean, because I don't know everything. I mean, nobody knows everything. And I continue to learn every day. I learn new things. And if I can learn something from you, Todd, if I can learn something from anyone tomorrow, it's great. I think it's a win for everyone.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, I'm not going to sabotage that opportunity. If we can have a discussion about a topic that we disagree on, then let's have a discussion. Because, you might learn something. I might learn something. And if we both learn something, boom, that's double your pleasure. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, there's no need for, throwing down over something. I feel that, your opinions are just as important. And if I'm coming at you, as you had mentioned before, and this is totally truth, the burden of proof is on me to prove to you that this is what happened. So, you might not have all the details in front of you, but you're smart enough to know if something is on the up and up, or maybe I'm just looking at it differently or something like that. And I should be man enough or woman enough, if there's women out there, they have that issue too, that they should be man and woman enough to say, I have an open mind. I want to hear what Kenny says.
Yeah. I mean, skepticism is not about just like debunking stuff. It's not about not believing. Skepticism is about having questions. I'm not sure about something, and I want to know the truth. That's what it's about. And it's most basic level. So when I'm not, skepticism is not like a thing. It's a process. I don't go around skepticking everywhere. That's not a thing.
That's right.
I apply the process of skepticism to claims. I want to know if they're true or not. I have doubts about claims. Therefore, I'm going to research them. I'm going to fact check things. I'm going to look at pictures. I'm going to see if they're legit or not. I'm going to interview people, witnesses. I'm going to interview you if you tell me the story.
Absolutely.
Because and it's not. I'm not trying to say you are a dick. I'm just saying, hey, I don't know about this story. You might be wrong about it.
Yes.
Let's try to figure out what's going on together.
Absolutely.
So
I think you get a lot more people with that too, because then they're not thinking, well, it's just going to be his opinion and not mine. So saying together is definitely a good. Anytime
we can do something together. If somebody making a claim, or if I am not sure about something, like if we can work together, I'm totally for that. And I encourage that. I try to pursue that as much as possible. Anytime I engage in social media with people and they're claiming whether they can either talk to ghosts or they can use dowsing rods or a Ouija board works or whatever, we have a discussion about what's already been done in all of those topics. But in the end, it's like, hey, let's test it. Can we get together? Where are you at? Let's meet somewhere in the middle, and we'll agree on a test that's fair to both of us, and we'll see if it works.
Yes.
Tonight I was engaged in a discussion with someone about dowsing rods, and their claim was that they absolutely work and they're accurate, no question about it. And I didn't buy into that. I said, there's been tests. Every time it's controlled tests, they don't work. But in the end, I said, hey, I know people that live near you. You're kind of far away, but I'm happy to come out there. I'll stay with my friends. I'm happy to come out. We'll design a few tests and we'll see what happens. I'm up for it. I'm game for it.
Well, I mean, you hold that. I mean, that's your body is. I would have to set them in glasses or something. And then,
I do have a rig. I have a testing rig for it. A friend of mine, Mitch Silverstein, he's an actual scientist. He created them. It's 2 acrylic blocks. You actually take the handles for the metal rods. You take the handles and you secure them in these blocks so that you can still hold the handles. You can still hold the original handles. There's no difference, but they're locked in these 2 blocks, and now you can't independently move them.
Oh.
So when you put the rods back in, now it's like, all right, now if you try to move them one way or the other, you can see it. It almost looks like a steering wheel. And I'll send you a picture after we're done here. But there's also a bubble level on the bottom of it, so I can see if you're tipping it back and forth,
Yes.
away from you or towards you. And I've used that for years. It's a very simple device, and I've used it for years. I've allowed people to use it, and no one has ever been able to make them work. But I'm still taking them to conferences. I'm still letting people use it. It's not like I did it twice and said, see, proved it.
Right.
All of you are wrong. I don't do that. I put it out there and let people continue to use it, so we can explore it.
And that's awesome. That's awesome.
I think so.
Because everybody claims it's the claims I hear all the time is, well, spirits are energy and we're energy and spirits will move the dowsing rods, but you're moving them unknowingly, whether it's subconsciously or
right.
Your body is doing it. If a spirit wants to move them, if they're put into some container and now nobody's around, nobody's touching anything, and then they start to move back and forth and all that, then okay, maybe there's a plausible it could possibly be paranormal, but I'm still not going to be set or convinced on dowsing rods. I've never found water with them. Is that what you use for dowsing rods?
I've tried. I did a test. I did a video a while back where I showed the device that I have, and I was explaining it, and I had a whole bunch of response. What is going on with my computer? There you go. I had a whole bunch of responses of people telling me that you need to be over water that's moving. It can't just be standstill. And I was like, all right. So my next video, I was literally on the beach in Cape May, New Jersey. And my wife was filming. I said, you guys all said it has to be water that's moving. So I came to the biggest body of water I could find, and that's the Atlantic Ocean. Here we go. Turned around, and my wife followed me. I walked into the ocean holding these rods. I was like, nothing happened. Nothing happened. I walked onto a drainage pipe where water flowed back and forth. Nothing happened. I said, what's the problem here? The problem that I see is that they do not work unless you want them to work.
That's right.
And by wanting them to work, you manipulate them.
Yes.
Otherwise, show me something. Show me how these work. There's the only way they can work is if there's magic involved. Honestly, I don't see and I know listeners are probably going to be like, what the hell he's talking about. He doesn't know what he's doing. I'm sorry. It's got to be magic. I mean, I'm still willing to see anyone try them. I'm willing to do a test for it, a couple tests. But when it comes to dowsing rods, no, I don't. I'm not going to pursue on my own any more testing because I've done it so many times. It doesn't work. Unless somebody can bring something good to me, some new information to me, I'm not going to pursue it anymore.
And it's, people will say, they'll be like, Kenny doesn't know what he's talking about, or Todd doesn't know what he's talking about. But, that application is applied to Ouija boards. And I had a conversation years ago at a conference that I did where I mentioned the ideomotor effect, and they were like, I'm not an idiot. And I'm like, I didn't say you was. I was like, there's a complete difference between, I was like, ideomotor effect isn't calling you an idiot. That's, I believe your experience, that you experienced something, but
that's your first problem right there. When they're like, you don't call me an idiot. That's your first problem.
Right. I mean, you can subconsciously do something and not realize you did it. I can tell you that for a fact. But that board, if it was possible for spirits to move that planchette, do you think I would be touching it? I'd just be sitting there watching, asking it questions, letting it move on its own.
Right.
I mean,
I think it'd be great.
And they're like,
no need for doing anything. I mean, if you can move a planchette, then you can certainly move a broom so you can get up and clean the kitchen. If you're going to haunt my house, clean it. You got to earn your keep.
You can clean the kitchen so that those little orbs you see don't show up anymore.
That's a good one.
And a lot of pareidolia, and it's understandable. People's brains go to that conclusion, but in this sense too, I have seen things that, and not anything with orbs, which are pollen dust and all that stuff, but I have seen images from water scrying, and I will ask people, hey, what do you see? And if they all see the same thing, man, then I'm going to be like, hey, then this is very plausible that it could possibly be because everyone's seeing the same thing. What's your takes on something like that?
So that would be, I believe that falls under a fallacy of like an argument from popularity, where so many people see the same thing, and we don't know if they're actually seeing the same thing. Because if an example like that, we don't know if are these people all together. Did one person that's running the class or whatever it is say, oh, I see this, and is everyone else just going along with it? Do they want to see whatever image is being described? We don't really know. In something like that, I would say you would have to have someone, whatever they do with the water, let them do it. Everyone take a look, separate, no one talk.
Right.
Separate, and then get them into different rooms and say, all right, what did you see?
What did you see? Yes.
And then go from there. Because we're not sure if everyone actually did see the same thing.
And I have done experiments like that. And that's why I brought it up, because we never said what it was. We just said, well, tell us what you see. And we had a lot of people see the exact same thing. And I'm like, could that have been something? I have no idea. I
don't know.
That's when I go, it's plausible. Throw it in the plausible pile.
It might be. Yeah, maybe they did see something. Maybe it is an image. I mean, again, now we're getting into either pareidolia,
yes, or
an image that's a little bit more than pareidolia. I mean, we can see. I mean, how many times have you seen pictures? The one meme that has like the drain that is draining water, soapy water, and it looks like an eyeball, and it really looks good. So when you look at it far away, everyone sees an eyeball.
Yes,
because that's what it looks like. But when you get close and you actually look at it, then you realize what it is. So are people seeing an image that kind of looks like maybe a face or whatever, and that's what they're describing? Like, yeah, maybe they are seeing that image. It doesn't mean it's a metaphysical image. It doesn't mean it was conjured up with spiritual powers or magic powers.
That's correct.
Maybe it's just something that it looks like a face. Therefore, everyone says, oh, it looks like a face. Because they also remember with this kind of experiment, people are primed to look for something.
Yes.
They're looking in this expecting to see something that they recognize. So therefore, they're going to look for it.
Yes. Your brain is going to definitely put something together. Because
so that's
audio.
That's a control.
Yes. Audio pareidolia is the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard some very compelling, which I would consider compelling EVPs. But, and you don't tell anybody. You just say, tell me what you hear. And, if the majority comes up with the consensus of this is what it was, that doesn't mean that is exactly what it was. But that gives you it gives me a place to go with that, because now everybody's heard the same thing, or this group of people said they hear this group says this. So it's given me kind of a base on where to go.
Right. But
what to do with it is the other thing, because I can't prove that is. All I know is where'd the voice come from? That's all I got.
Well, that depends on your source.
Right.
Are we talking leaving a recorder in the middle of a room in a house and then walking away?
Yep, leaving.
Or are we talking about hooking it up to a broken radio? Ghost box. Sorry, and recording radio stations that are being swept through. Because that's a big difference between the two.
Yes, and you're going to hear the snippets from that ghost box, man, right. And they come out of the woodwork. But if you let an audio recorder in a place where nobody is, and you hear hi, it's going to be first. Was the whole house, the exterior of the house would have to be videoed as well to make sure nobody snuck up to a window or something.
Good. I like that you said that.
But it's, if you get down to it, each room has its own recorders in it and all, or its own cameras. If you get down to all that and you still hear hello, where did it come from?
And that's the mystery that needs to be solved.
Yes. But can we say it's paranormal? No. There's no way. Nothing in paranormal is paranormal.
It's just the interpretation
exactly
of someone based on belief.
Yes.
So, yes. If you get a recording under the conditions that you just explained, that absolutely no one was in the house, video surveillance on the entire property, we know everything about, if an ant sneezes, we know it.
Yes.
Because we have so much surveillance. And then you still get a recording that says hello. So where did that come from?
Yes.
Until we know the source, we don't know the source.
And we also know that sound can travel. So we know that.
Travel. It could have been on the recording already.
Yes.
I have come across that where people pre-record things and then play it during a ghost hunt as if it happened right away.
Yes.
So all of these things, more controls. And it's not, the idea is not to discredit or debunk. The idea is to tighten the controls to make sure what you get is genuine.
Yes. And I want to just tell everybody right now that I'm not telling them that I'm not disbelieving them. It's just my opinion on how I approach the paranormal as well. I can't specifically tell somebody that's claiming their house is haunted that it's haunted, because that's just not true. I'm not going to lie to somebody.
Right.
I can say at the very end of, because we can't control everything when we're at somebody's house for 8 hours, but we can, I will say, look, I have no idea. You got something going on here, and it would take more, research to try to figure out what is going on.
And you brought up a good point. that when you go to someone's house, it is not a laboratory environment.
Exactly.
It's not a controlled setting. So there's often times where people present what they claim is evidence, or audio recordings or video, and you ask about controls, or I would ask about controls, and they have none because, well, it's a private residence. We can't control this. So I get the response of, so it was good enough. And I got to tell you, no, it's not.
Exactly.
It's not, because if you let all these variables in that can affect your data, and it's not supernatural, it's all man-made kind of stuff. If you let that in knowingly, then I cannot accept your data as valid.
Yes. Because the contamination's everywhere. If you have someone there with cats or dogs, I mean, yeah, that's you just screwed. You're right. Screwed no matter what, because you're going to have environmental contamination from them.
Right.
So
if you bring me an audio recording and you're in a house, like a 3-story house, and part of your team's on the 3rd floor, part of your team is on the 1st floor, and you're stuck in the middle, and you tell me, oh, I got these noises. I left this recorder in this room and walked into the other room, and we got a whole bunch of voices. Like, okay, did you soundproof a box and put it in there? Or what? How did you keep voices from your teammates above and below, or from you in another room, from getting to that recorder?
Right.
If you did nothing, then that's how I treat your data.
Exactly.
To me, it's nothing.
Exactly.
It's worthless.
Man. See, I love talking to you because, I mean, I love being able to hear differences of opinions, and I talk to a lot of researchers, and I think that it's very fascinating, and I'm not in the field as much as I used to be, which that's going to start changing next year. But I'm going to be honest with somebody when they tell me this is what they believe this is. I'm going to give them my opinion, and if they get butthurt over it and they got to block me, then so be it. So, you know what I mean? I don't care. I'm out there because, like you, I want to know what's going on. Was it a solar flare from 8 hours ago or a month ago that's now just hitting? I mean, is it barometric pressure? Is your house swelling, expanding, contracting? That picture fell off the wall. Could it have been from some kind of vibration? Or that's the things that I want to know.
Right.
So
at the end of the day, when we stop our conversation, however it goes, whether it goes good, whether it goes bad, I want to be able to walk away knowing that I was completely honest, and that if I didn't know something, I admitted it. If I wasn't sure, I admitted it. But if I did know something, I conveyed that information to the other person, and that when I walk away, I was just honest. I was honest and true to myself.
Yes,
and that's it. If I walk away thinking, well, I just conceded, I agreed with him just to shut him up, that's not being honest with myself.
No,
and also not being honest to them.
Yeah, you just completely. Yeah, you just completely like. It's almost like you gave up on yourself. You're just like, I agree with you. No, you got to tell them.
I agree. Just I don't want to talk to you anymore. And even that, like when if I see a lost cause and it's someone that is combative and confrontational and just being a dick, I had no problem just coming out and just saying, look, you know what? I really just don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't like you. I don't think you're a good person. I'm going to walk away now.
Yes.
And that's it. If they want to get pissed off after that, I don't really care.
Right.
It doesn't bother me because I already don't like them. So, but on the other side of that coin, if like weeks later or months later, they reach out and say, hey, I would like your opinion on something. Okay. I'm not going to hold it against them. I don't hold grudges like that.
Sure.
I'm going to, all right, send me your pictures. Send me what you got. I'll tell you what I think, but again, I mean, like you get 3 strikes. if like you do this 2 more times and you're still a dick afterwards, then I'm not going to talk to you anymore.
Right. Now, Kenny, I'm going to have to, wrap this up here soon, and I hate it because I could talk to you forever. In fact, you're going to have me on one of your shows sometime so I can learn and grasp more. I'm always fascinated listening to you with your podcasts. I know that you're on a few of them. So, and I'll come across them now and again, and I'll be like, oh man, I got to check this out. And in fact, I seen you had, I think it was Awesome and Art. I watched a little bit of that one with ghost boxes and different equipments that people build. So, and I really enjoyed that one too. And it got a little heated there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it got a little. I don't know about. I'm not sure. I would say heated, but maybe a little bit hot. But
it was a little bit.
So I'm not gonna go into great detail, but all I'll say is that if we're scheduled to do an event together, like either like a panel discussion or a podcast or something together, and you come to me beforehand and say, "Hey, read this report beforehand because it helps explain my point," then I'm going into that with the expectation that you read that report. And when we get into the discussion and I find out that you didn't, but you wanted me to read it, like that tells me something about you and your character.
Right.
Because you what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Don't tell me to read a paper and you didn't read the damn thing.
Yeah.
So I don't like that. But I mean, for the overall show with that one, that was great.
Yes.
I did enjoy it. He was really willing to come on and we discussed things. He admitted when he had things wrong. We got into a discussion. We didn't berate him. We didn't, make fun of him. It was a good discussion.
Yes.
And I mean, we talked afterwards and he was like, damn, man, that was like the most difficult, intense conversation I've ever had. And I was like, well, did you benefit from it? And he said, yeah. So I was like, all right, that's cool. That's the point.
Yes. And it was really good. I thought it was really good. And all the points were valid. And I was like, man. So where can people check you out? I mean, I know you have a Facebook page. I am Kenny Biddle.
Yes.
And go ahead.
Oh, okay. I have that. You can find most of my work on skepticalinquirer.org. That's the magazine that I write for. You can look into the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. That's who I work for, which is like a subsidiary of Center for Inquiry, which is based in Buffalo, New York. There's a YouTube channel called, there's one under my name, Kenny Biddle. I think Kenny Biddle 42. That might be my TikTok. I don't know. You look for my name because I do my Friday night show, the Skeptical Help Bar, Friday nights at 8 p.m. to 10 Eastern. And what else do? I do a video series called Ghosts in the Machine, and that is on the Center for Inquiry YouTube channel. And I also do, this Wednesday night, once a month, which happens to be this coming Wednesday, I do a podcast called 3 Tortured Souls with Dave Schumacher and Tim Vickers. We're talking about, I think this week, we're actually talking about a Mothman Festival review because we all went there a couple weeks ago. We're going to talk about like a recap, what we found. And then we're also going to do Chat GPT. We're going to ask it paranormal questions and then discuss the answers that it gives us. So should be interesting.
Excellent. Yes.
But yeah, you can also email me at kbiddle, BIDDLE, at centerforinquiry.org if you have questions or if you want me to review a photo or a video or whatever. I'm happy to answer all emails.
Awesome. Now, let me ask you this question before we wrap it up. So what is the most, how do I want to say this? What is the most plausible piece of evidence you've ever seen?
Most plausible piece of evidence.
Like what could be possibly paranormal, That's something that you had seen or found or went through, and you're like, I really don't know what this is.
I mean, I don't think I can give you a specific incidents. I mean, there's been plenty of times. I don't want to seem like I've solved every case that comes across my desk.
Absolutely.
I have not.
Absolutely.
There's plenty of times where I say, I don't know. I have no idea what this is. And it's usually like different pictures or videos. And the reason I can't figure it out is because there's a lack of knowledge. There's a lack of information. Either the person wasn't sure what they were doing at the time, or maybe it happened. This is a really good one. When it happened 20 years ago and they're trying to remember everything from an experience, plenty of times like that where I have no idea what's going on. But specific stuff that's like really made me stop and think, like maybe this is something paranormal. I don't think there has been, at least not yet.
Yeah, because I was going to say you go regular hunting for ghosts. You go to ghosts.
I go out. Yes. I go out as much as I can. I was just at the Knickerbocker Hotel in Pennsylvania last weekend. Stayed overnight. The owner, Peg, awesome woman, she's very kind, very enthusiastic about the history of the building. But she invited me out to stay overnight to experience the hotel.
Nice.
I didn't see any ghosts.
None come up and shook your hand or anything.
No. I was waiting. I even had a camera set up all night in my room, just hoping something would come in. I wandered the halls throughout the night, but didn't find anything. But I'll keep looking. I always keep looking because that's the one thing about me and most of the skeptics that I work with, that we want to see something. We want the real deal. But
do you think it's because you question everything that is why you've never run into something? And the only reason I say this is because Ronnie, who usually does this show, she's not feeling good, so she couldn't make it. But she always has this way of saying that a ghost will only allow itself to connect with you if it wants to connect with you.
So I'm going to give you an answer, and I'm not trying to be mean about it.
No, that's fine.
But I think that is a cop-out. I think that's a very poor excuse for me, or someone like me, not experiencing something, because now that's putting a behavior onto ghosts from our perspective. You know what I mean? Like we're injecting a behavior onto an entity without actually knowing what that entity is thinking, if it exists.
Well, that's true. That is true.
Right. So, I'm open to it. Yes, I do not believe ghosts exist, but I'm hopeful that they are.
Yes.
That's why I keep going out. I'm not going. I sat and sat through a seance over the weekend. Like I don't think seances do anything. Yet the people involved were convinced. So I sat there and experienced it. I live streamed it too. But I sat there and watched and I listened, picking out. I look for the ghost. I go through their EVP sessions or their ghost box sessions, and I look at how they take pictures. I'm out there trying to find out what people are experiencing. And if the information leads to, hey, this is a ghost, which hopefully leads to actually like standing in front of a ghost, that's great. That's awesome. I would love it. But to say that because I don't believe, I'm not going to experience it, I think that's just that. To me, that's a convenient excuse.
Yeah, no, sure, understandable.
It's. I don't think it's based on anything except belief. Again, it comes back to belief. I don't experience it. I have a different perspective, and some people, and I've come across it a lot, where they're like, "Well, you don't believe, so you're not going to experience it." Why? What's that have? If anything, I would be the one that a ghost would want to appear to the most.
Yes.
Like if you
because
already
you don't,
believe
yeah,
they're
you don't
real,
believe.
big deal. It's like seeing an old friend. It's like, seeing a rerun. Big deal. But if I come along and say, no, you're not real. I mean, if let's say just you and me, we're having a conversation and you say, I don't know, like you can do a 3-point shot. You can shoot a basketball in a hoop, get a 3-point shot like 5 out of 10 times. And I say, well, no, you can't. And I have a basketball. We're on a court. You're going to try and show me. Like, that's what you're going to want to do.
Yes.
So if I walk into a haunted house or alleged haunted house and say, well, I'm not really sure there's ghosts here. So, let me see. I'm doing everything everyone else is doing. I'm doing everything a ghost hunter is doing, or a psychic or a medium, where I'm asking for noises. I'm asking for knocks, which that's a whole subject we can get into next time. But asking for all the signs, waiting for stuff to happen, nothing happens. Or if it does happen, I actually investigate it.
Yes.
And then find a cause. I don't sit there in the room and just, like, ooh, ah.
Right.
I get off my ass and go investigate and find out what caused a noise or a knock or a light to come on.
Yes, and don't wait. Do it now.
Don't wait. Yeah, you do it now at the time. That's why we're there.
That's right. My God.
I'm sorry, man. I can't stand it where like somebody watches down the hall and they're like, I think I saw a shadow. And they just stand there. Everyone stands there down the hall. Like,
yes. Well, get
go
up
down the
and
freaking hallway.
Yes. Start running, man.
Yeah.
Oh, Kenny, man, you're too much. I love talking to you. I had a wonderful time. And
man, this was fun.
Oh, yes, I had a wonderful time. And perhaps someday I'll be on your show and learn a heck of a lot more. Just do some regular talking, have a brew, and
absolutely,
and enjoy it. All right, Kenny. Well, thank you so much for being on my show. I had a blast, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
You too, sir.
All right. Thanks, Kenny. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for tuning in with us tonight, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content from Paranomaly Podcast is made available. If you believe you have something paranormal happening in your home or business, or you believe you may have witnessed a UFO or UAP, please send us your story, your photos, videos, questions, suggestions, and your comments to paranormalypodcast@gmail.com. You can also visit us at www.paranormalypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. Hey, thanks again for watching and listening, and I hope that you tune in for next week's episode of Paranomaly.